Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Smite Pro League. I'm Tom, that's Tolly. Today is Friday, and it's all about North America, baby. We've got a fantastic two-match set ready and waiting. Can't wait to get into it.
First one, Spacestation Gaming against CLG. A little bit of an interesting matchup considering Spacestation Gaming had the better end of the result earlier on in the week.
As Tully said, there were some games played earlier on in the week. Let's take a look at the snapshot of where North America is so far in our inaugural week of the summer split. So far, we've seen a couple of teams look successful. You can see CLG Gaming lost to Trifecta, believe it or not. That was a nice upset there. But people have been talking, and I think that's the one I want to focus on here. People have been talking that Trifecta versus CLG Gaming might not be the upset. CLG Gaming seems to have fallen down a bit, and Trifecta with some roster changes.
It was the first victim of the Trifecta CLG, unfortunately. They didn't know how to really adapt to Paul and the new changes to Yankee going back into the 100 position and in the North American standings. As a result, Trifecta on the top alongside Space Station and Splice as they found the victory over Luminosity in the week. As United, struggling a little bit as well, the same way they struggled at the beginning of the spring split.
Yep, so we get to see a couple of teams come out and play a second time. Should be very interesting. Both Space Station is playing, so they could topple Trifecta from number one.
It's very possible. This is going to give them a lot of momentum if Space Station can find the win. CLG putting themselves 2 set victories to end week number 1.
That would be very, very interesting to see CLG go ahead and be on the bad side of things, honestly, because this is a squad that has a ton of talent.
It's true.
Very interested in what they're doing and how they plan to do it.
All-star lineup, fineokay, Homiefe, Hurriwind, Jigz, and then you also got Snoopy in that Hunter role. It's an all-star lineup between CLG. They have so many moments of brilliance in any single given position, whether it's the side lanes, whether it's Homiefe setting up the plays, or Hurriwind expanding his god pool between Giannis, Ra, or even the Uller in his set against Trifecta.
Yeah, a big part of this team. I keep looking at rookie fineokay over there in the solo lane. I think what he's been able to do for this squad has been very, very powerful because he's been an enabler for this team. It's not just about, and you know this better than most, it's not just about being the guy in solo lane. What happens when you're this powerful in solo lane, you allow Homiefe more wiggle room to be oppressive. You allow Hurriwind to actually make a play or two because you're going nuts in the solo lane. You just give everybody more breathing space.
fineokay is not just a typical brute in that solo lane. He's very methodical about when he goes in, and he likes to kind of brawl it out every now and then. Like you said, it gives that leeway for not only Homiefe to make the plays, but more breathing room for Snoopy to just quietly farm that early to mid game transition in the late.
I think it's very interesting. I have privately drawn comparisons from fineokay to your style of play, actually. I think the solo lane is a lane that doesn't always really focus on the cerebral. A lot of solo lane players just kind of play the game and let the game come to them and kind of just brood it out, like you said. But at the height of your career, and I think we see it in your analysis, you think about the game very deeply. You think about things in general very deeply, and I think that approach is very similar to what fineokay does. The way he puts out the content, he breaks things down to the very smallest variable, understanding every sort of how everything could work out.
If you're definitely interested in learning about the solo lane, fineokay is the pinnacle player to learn from, considering just how much content he puts out there, and you could definitely see it translate into his gameplay, the way he's able to almost make the laning phase looks so just like clockwork to an extent.
Yeah, like I said, I danced around it. Basically what I'm saying is solo laners usually aren't the smart guy on the team. And I think that fineokay breaks that mold, and I think that you were the smart guy in your squad.
Sure. fineokay definitely, one step above his opposition as well. Yeah. And against, on the other side, SSG, Aquarius is no slouch either. I think that Aquarius is going to be a difficult opponent for fineokay.
So fineokay, I think, established himself as being this breakout rookie. And Aquarius was a little bit under the radar, and I think it's because he's who he's surrounded by. Andy, Baskin, Jeff, BaRRaCCuDDa. These are legendary North American names that have been playing since Smite's inception. They've been in the spotlight, and they've been fan favorites. So when you join this roster, it's tough to get out of that shadow.
You learn a lot from when you play with andinster, BaRRaCCuDDa, and JeffHindla. Those Season 1 champions that really got the ball rolling in the Smite esports side of things, and an easy transition. It doesn't matter if Baskin, transitioned in Season 2 solo lane, or now Aquarius in Season 4 and Season 5. they're going to be having a lot easier time to learn what they need to do to not just play the laning phase the same way they do in ranked or whatnot, but actually play at a high caliber SPL level. Aquarius making those transitions. You saw him at the Smite Masters land feeling so confident after all his sets.
That was a huge moment, I think, for Spacestation Gaming fans and Aquarius in specific. Throughout the spring split, Aquarius was kind of the role player. That's what he's been in the past, where he just goes to lane, does his stuff, they pick a Mardio, and he kind of just stalemates it, and then was a tremendous monster come time for team fight. But as he started to improve and look better and better, they started giving him options like Odin and Hercules that he could be a hard carry on, honestly. And we saw that really lead up to the LAN, where, I mean, he played lights out.
And you talked about that one specific pick, Hercules, where if we go into picks and bans for this first game, I'm expecting to be highly contested between the two. Maybe not first pick, maybe not banned,
right,
but after the first pick, I wouldn't be surprised if a Hercules gets snatched away by the second pick.
Aqua's turned into a star in his own right, especially after hearing some of the clips from the interview as well. But as we head into this one, I agree totally. I think Hercules will be up there because both Aquarius and fineokay really do like this option, and both really serve a similar purpose for their teams.
A lot of control, a lot of damage. You want to try to duke it out, but as you get the return fire, the damage onto you, your physical power increases. That makes your driving strikes deal more damage, your excavates just to deal that final blow.
I did know that the ultimate was excavate. I did. I did. It was just in the memory bank. Bands coming out so far. Yana's going to be number 1. A Shibalanke band out as well. Expect to see a lot of that as the game continues. 2 Guardians, Terra and Athena, going to say goodbye as well. Spacestation Gaming does have the first selection. And as we hear that, it's Thoth guy.
What their set against United specifically was a back and forth between Baskin and Venenu on the Thoth. Spacestation realized Thoth is pretty darn good for at least our own individual play style.
Yeah.
A lot of teams figuring out what works for them, and Spacestation identify it's the mid lane for Baskin.
Hachiman going to be the hunter of choice for CLGaming, and they're going to pair that with a Geb.
Interesting.
Geb is annoying, very much so.
It is annoying to face off against the Geb, but what's more interesting is that the Geb was picked so early in the draft in a world where Athena gets banned. There's also the Soul pick available. That's usually the next go-to kind of Guardian, especially considering that Jigz really heavily prefers that pick.
Well, Serqet and Guan on the same team. I love these selections here for Spacestation Gaming for 2 reasons. One, the Serqet is great in the hands of andinster, full stop. That's just nice and well and dry. But what it comes down to it is that Guan is a healer. Serqet can shut off that healing, so you double pick the healer and the counter with the idea of banning Odin here after the Thor pick.
But the Geb is a good counter towards Serqet. You drop the shield on anyone that's targeted by the last breath, give them that extra couple of seconds that they need to get away. Thor, global pressure out of Homiefe, allows those silent ganks to start occurring, or maybe just to counter gank against whatever andinster is trying to do.
And again, this is just a selection that I think Homiefe plays very, very well. So I like to see the Thor there. Final bans coming out. Odin, Ra, and Artemis. Nothing really surprising there. The Chang'e, though.
It is interesting, right? Because you think Aquarius could play the Chang'e with that Thoth damage. You know, the Wax and Moon, Final Judgment, very annoying to handle, and it's very difficult to gank the Chang'e in the solo lane. I believe he did play it against that set against the United 1 game. I can't remember exactly which game it was, but you're not going to get Chang'e, you get Aphrodite instead.
There it is. That one's likely to go into the solo lane with Guan Yu being the supportive choice. We need a hunter here for Spacestation Gaming. And of course, that is up to interpretation. We will see what happens when we hit the battlefield. But right now, we'll see Jing in the hands of BaRRaCCuDDa, one of his preferred hunters, I believe.
It's something that he's played just ever since Season 3 when he was on the same team with Xenotronics during Luminosity Gaming. They, flexed between the Soul and the Jing could go either way. A very safe pick. And against Snoopy's Hachiman, that's kind of what you want to do. There's a lot of poke potential with the heavenly banners, and then once you use that amount of archery just to commit, it's very difficult to escape, even with the airstrike.
Last pick, Robin. That one's going to hurt, but it's very interesting because that means either the Robin or the Thor will be solo lane. I expect to see Thor solo. Recently, he did get a change where he excels at killing the minions with the hammer toss, and I do know that Thor solo is something that CLGaming's fineokay actually enjoys.
It's possible, but it's no Season 2 Thor where you could start at level 1 with the red pot. And that's when Thor solo was really scary with the bluestone pendant. Wouldn't surprise me either, especially with how often Robin's in the jungle. You want to have a safe pick in the jungle. Robin's more safe, but Thor can bring you the engagements on the side lanes. So it depends on what CLG wants to do.
So it's an interesting solo lane matchup. Thor versus Aphrodite. We'll see if that's the case. But if that is the case, totally, who wins the matchup?
You're not winning the matchup. You're farming and out-rotating the Aphrodite. You're not killing her.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with the game at large. Righty, set, go. Game 1.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Toli, Finch, and Taco here going into Space Station up against CLG. And Taco, that's a lot of sustain on that Space Station roster between the Guan Yu and the Aphrodite.
It's a pretty spooky amount of sustain. I mean, it's bad enough when you already see one of those healers going through, but to get both of them, now that is the package deal that Space Station are definitely looking for.
And you heard them talking about it on the desk. That Aphrodite is so safe in lane. I mean, is there really anything you can do to slow that down? Can you kill it? I mean, are you just trying to out-farm it? Is that really all you can do?
If fineokay is actually going to be representing the Thor solo, then I do feel more that Toli's statement rings a little bit more true because of the fact that, like, Thor, you don't really have many opportunities to try and actually lock down the Aphrodite and kill her. She can play that lane as passive as she wants to. More importantly, it is going to be about those rotations. I think that the Thor's semi-global presence is going to be pretty strong here in terms of just trying to focus out singular members from Space Station. I think in those team fights especially, we're going to probably be seeing a lot of Thor emphasis towards that Aphrodite just to at least keep her CC'd out for a moment or two, enough time for everybody else from CLG to actually collapse.
Well, you saw it there on the screen. Who do you think is going to win this matchup? Vote for us, please, in the Mixer poll. That way we can get your idea. And where do you think that Thor's going? I mean, it is. We don't see Robin in the solo lane much anymore, but you kind of think you'd want that global presence from the Thor to affect more parts of the map, but we'll see where it ends up going here. Sounds like we are just about ready to go ahead and move into game, Taco, and go ahead and see where this all shakes out.
And it will be Thor solo, fineokay. If Doc called it, and, well, it just makes more sense. You don't really want the Robin in the solo lane. I mean, Homiefe, I am confident that he's got a sick enough Thor to where he probably wanted to pick two, but Robin is just going to fare so much better because it's bad enough trying to, like, kill the Aphrodite, but I think in an Aphrodite versus Robin matchup, probably the Robin's more at risk of dying than the Aphrodite.
No, Aphrodite is very strong in lane, and with this option, it really does kind of lean a little bit more towards the strategy. We're not trying to, like, we're not trying to outlane you. We're not trying to kill you over here that much. We're really just trying to see if we can get some impactful rotations to other parts of the map. This now allows fineokay to perhaps have some impact on this Baskin Hurriwind lane. If he wants to come over and try and catch Baskin maybe after evade and punish or something to that effect, and try and give a chance here for Hurriwind to get ahead on this Raijin.
Not gonna lie though, it's pretty hard to avoid being concerned for CLG's composition here because they kind of took a bank that they would make it into that mid to late game team fighting stage, but Space Station's draft overall, I feel, has a lot more room in terms of messing up the execution. I don't think that CLG have a comp right now that is going to be very forgiving, if at all, if they aren't able to actually pick up a pick or two during these fights.
And that's the question. I mean, what is the stage of the game where you think the CLG roster or draft does better than Space Station? Because I can't imagine it's late when they have the Aphrodite and the Guan Yu heals, you know, and even a Serqet to go along with that, and Thoth for huge damage. I mean, where's the spike from CLG that they're looking to play around?
Everything's going to be based off of Hurriwind. I think that this is the game where Hurriwind has to really stand out apart from the rest, and Raijin into the Thoth, I mean, you expect the early game to be more in favor of the Raijin just because he does have the damage available, and that's a nice plus, but the range and mobility from Space Station's draft as a whole, I feel could cause a lot of complications here for CLG as they try to transition over into the mid to late.
See how well they're able to make that transition happen as the early game seems to be shaking out fairly standard between these two so far, and that's about what we expect. No one has any really, like, disastrous matchups that they're fighting into early on. Andinster was able to grab the Serqet and make sure they had the healers on their side so they don't have to worry about that causing any potential problems for them. It looks like there is a slight XP advantage coming over here towards BaRRaCCuDDa and Jeff.
The Geb shields will be crucial too, because every Serqet player knows Geb is like your mortal enemy almost every single time that you think that you're about to get the last breath and the poison's going to spread all over the place. Geb shield And they're A-okay. They get out 10 HP. So Spacestation do need to be careful of not overcommitting their resources, because if they're unable to fully capitalize, the same story could happen to them.
Already really good damage onto fineokay, who forced to go right to the spin. Uses the hammer for damage, so will not have that for the escape. Aphrodite coming through with the heals, but only the tail end is going to go to help andinster. Lands the second stun, and Andy has the Death Bane. That's enough for him to get away.
Believe the ambush got canceled out there from that wall by fineokay, and well, Andy might live, but same can't be said for his blue buff. Aquarius is getting cut off now from a very nice wall out of fineokay. Homiefe with the body blocks could potentially be looking for more, and then you remember that the birds, they heal.
Man, but that is actually a pretty big deal. Aphrodite is one that wants the blue buff over here in the soul lane. There are some soul laners, like Sobek comes to mind, where if you take the blue buff away from them, they won't struggle that much at a certain point, but early Afro, she wants that.
Yes and no. I mean, she's still against the Thor. fineokay has to walk up to the wave if he really wants to clear it, and I think that Aquarius is going to have enough time to toss out those lovebirds and still get away and play it relatively safe from underneath his T1 tower line.
Andinster continuing to be aggressive into the jungle. Looks like Aquarius might be coming into the jungle his own self. Just dropping down a ward does not want to be caught unawares by any more gangs over here to the solo lane if Homie wants to come show a little bit more attention here on this Robin. So that'll help out. Aquarius, as you said, is probably going to play a little bit further back if need be here without some of that extra sustain. And now with that extra information, he'll have an easier time of that in the lane.
BaRRa not going to be able to find that persistent gust onto Snoopy, but Jigz still giving hot pursuit off that Geb rollout. And he wanted that cooldown available for just a little bit longer. Not too sure that Jing Wei's really the guy that's going to be able to find that first blood capability on her own turf.
Yeah, especially up against the Hachiman, who's so strong in lane, right, and so safe. So it might be a bit difficult for BaRRaCCuDDa to be able to find that. And he is paired up here with the Guan in lane, who's very strong. So depending on if they are able to catch it out, they might have a chance. But Jigz is also very safe on the Geb. So BaRRaCCuDDa probably not really looking for kills so much as trying to find his farm. And then once he's, got his build on, like, start rotating over to help out the rest of the squad.
Some nice deep wards there from fineokay, I believe. That's been the one placing them. There's one on those back harpies near the blue buff, and now that andinster's trying to play a little bit more aggressive, they've got to make sure to still be on the lookout for Homiefe, which is why we see the rotation coming out of JeffHindla, try and ensure that his team can secure their own blue.
Yeah, this is really important. Aquarius needs this. JeffHindla's here to make sure that Homie and fineokay are not going to be able to strip this one away. Had to use the teleport already, did Aquarius, so wouldn't have had an easy way right back into lane. So that's good they were able to drop that and try and make life a little bit easier for the Afro over here, who's not really too far behind it.
And of course, BaRRaCCuDDa never going to be upset about getting a solo farm a wave. I think any hunter would be pretty satisfied with that. And CLG, both Hurriwind and Snoopy, just splitting the farm of that red buff. And Baskin did choose to head on back to base, finish off those penetration boots. But so far, so good for both sides.
Andinster fighting it out with Homie, is going to drop the ultimate during the overhead kick. Baskin not able to land the evade and punish, so Homiefe is going to be able to continue retreating into the jungle. Not really that much coming from that one, but we're seeing the difference here between these two solo laners. The meditation, as opposed to the teleport that's coming out here from Aquarius. You see a little bit more meditations here lately, and it looks like fineokay is one of the ones that's kind of leaning towards that.
One of the best ways to try and counteract the healer meta is to bring heals of your own. Granted, I don't think that a meditation's really going to be able to match the sustain that an Aphrodite and Guan Yu can both provide. But it's just a nice benefit to have because Aquarius can do this all day long. He's just sitting there farming, and he knows that fineokay is proxying the wave. Not a whole lot that he can really do in terms of killing fineokay himself because, well, he'll just ult at the second that Andy even tries to gank. So it has to be one of those guaranteed confirms. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to see Anderson really wasting too much time trying to chase down a Thor.
And it's interesting because we've seen andinster have to come over towards the soul lane a little bit more often. We haven't really seen that many attempts at ganks in the mid or dual lane so far. So BaRRaCCuDDa, Baskin have both been kind of, and Hurriwind and Snoopy also, have kind of been under little to no pressure, just been able to farm at this point. And we talked about it. If there's no pressure, eventually these healers are going to be a problem as Homie trades out with andinster in the jungle, brings him down to about half health.
Well, 4 members from CLG getting into position here to both cut off Spacestation from providing reinforcements on securing the blue buff, and just to make sure that that could happen, Homiefe and fineokay will make sure to get that cooldown back in their favor, or respawn buff timer, I should say.
But purple buff is going to go the way of the duo lane of Spacestation, BaRRaCCuDDa, and JeffHindla. One of the oldest duo lanes you could want to see. Certainly crowd favorites, able to come grab it from Snoopy and Jigz. That purple buff is going to be theirs. And able to come freely snatch up their own as well, as Jigz is kind of in the mid lane trying to help out with that pressure against the Afro.
Oh, speaking of which, 4 men strong there from CLG. Baskin's the target. He won't be able to sustain throughout all of that damage. And Homiefe is going to get that first blood credibility to his name. But man, there is nothing. No. I mean, we call Baskin a god all the time. That's certainly one way to take him down.
No, it seems like it requires that, doesn't it, at this point? You got a 4-man rotate over to kill him, but there's really nothing Baskin could have done there. He even used the beads. It just wasn't enough. The wall from fineokay was really well placed to limit his back options towards the tier 1 tower, and then Hurriwind's damage on the Taiko drum's just too strong.
Is it weird that even in those sort of moments, I'm still halfway expecting Baskin to escape and get a kill?
Yeah, I'm like, why didn't they bring all 5? This is Baskin we're talking about, okay? Just a 4-man gank? That ain't gonna get it done, but apparently it was enough, yeah.
Pretty heavy insult, too. But Baskin still staying intact as far as the farm is concerned. Hurriwind, of course, is gonna have a slight lead, but that's just unavoidable. I don't think that Spacestation, even if Baskin knew that rotation was coming, Spacestation didn't have anybody in position in time to really try and help out. Aquarius is definitely not expecting this one to come through, though.
We might be seeing a repeat of what we just saw happen in mid lane wall. He's going to catch Aquarius off. He's already down to half health. Doves come out for the heal, a good back off. But now comes in the slow, the Cataclysm, and the Mystic Rush. Homiefe going to do the last hit, and Aquarius falls too.
2 ults are better than 1, but Andy could be looking for more onto Hurriwind. Baskin still charging the ultimate. He's going for it. Woo. Not enough damage, however, even with the last breath and that final judgment. Hurriwind just going to barely manage to slide on out of there. And BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla take that purple buff yet again. Red buff, though, will be added.
And I think this is why Baskin went in, because yes, he had a chance maybe to get the kill. I don't know if that was fully charged final judgment, but at the very least, it does push Hurriwind away, right? So that means now Hindla and andinster can rotate over and steal that red buff pretty freely, try and give them some response, because it's been Baskin that's fallen, Aquarius has fallen, they've been trying to steal his blue buff. The purple-red buff invades on the duo side is going to help even that out a little bit.
The concern here for CLG is not so much finding picks in the laning phases. I think that that's probably the easier part of this composition for them. It's just, can they continue to effectively punish Spacestation throughout the entirety of this match? I mean, once the laning phases are done and the team fights are really coming forward with a lot more fluid rotations happening everywhere, I don't really see a situation in which CLG should have an opportunity to just drop 2 to 3 ults on one target.
Yeah, it's not going to continue to be a viable strategy. It's sort of, I think, what you're alluding to there, right, Taco? They can get these picks early, and that's why you're saying that's relatively easy for them. They can't all in commit. The problem is that's not going to be something they can continue to do for the whole game and expect to be successful here. Eventually, Spacestation are going to be strong enough where they can survive through the burst, where the Aquarius joins up with the Aphrodite and is able to Undying Love through it. They've got to be able to build up a big enough lead early to where they can just win the team fights later.
And it's evident, despite CLG getting the better out of things for 2 early picks, they have no idea if this Gold Fury is even happening right now. Spacestation going to get this one for free. Baskin probably doesn't even need to use the ultimate, but will do so just in case, as BaRRaCCuDDa harasses Snoopy and Jigz on the other end. They didn't think that Gold Fury was happening because BaRRaCCuDDa was still showing face.
That's really good from BaRRaCCuDDa to not give up the ghost, that they're up to that. And I think that was good timing because it looked as if Homie and Hurriwind had backed at that time too. So perhaps Spacestation had some awareness of that. I wasn't quite tracking where they were, but that's a great call from them to come grab the Gold Fury. When they realize there's no commit, they all in on it, and BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't need to come to that either.
And those are the little plays that are going to end up catching up to CLG later on, because double healer comps, everybody knows you're racing against the clock. Can we keep them suppressed long enough to get our itemization ahead of theirs?
Drums is coming out onto andinster because up in the air is fineokay. Hurriwind is able to take him down underneath the tier 1 tower. Rotations coming in from Aquarius, but this might be too little too late.
That was just a hot play out of fineokay.
And earlier I was saying that I thought the Thor might be better in the jungle because you can affect both sides, but if the plan is to leave BaRRaCCuDDa alone, which it seems to be, then this kind of makes sense, right? This is the dunk in onto Baskin or Andy in the mid lane that has perfect synergy with the Taiko jumps from Hurriwind, and they trusted he would land that stun, went right up in the Taiko jumps before he even landed, and was able to get a beautiful combo.
Oh, also in comparison to the rest of Space Station's draft, why would you ever want to waste your time trying to capture a Jingwei's life? I mean, he's just got so much mobility with the persistent gust, the agility dash off of it, and on top of that, airstrike just in case. It's such a hassle, I think, finding early picks onto a Jingwei that CLG would rather invest their time elsewhere, and so far it's been paying off.
And for the 3 kills that they have, I mean, we're 13 minutes here into the game, and CLG does not have a substantial lead really at this point. It's less than 1,000 gold, about 700 or 800 gold that separates them. The experience is a little bit more relevant, 2,200, but even still, CLG have not really been able to get too far ahead just yet.
Snoopy already knows. He probably dies there if he doesn't ult away. Whether he knew that reinforcements were looking to rotate or not, I don't think that that's a situation that Snoopy can really afford to eat a bunch of free-handed autos.
No, at that point, he had to make sure he backed out. That does mean BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla can kind of aggress a little bit further around this purple buff spawn, but with the rotation over from Homie and Jigz, it's going to be much harder, and looks like CLG are going to be able to secure that for themselves. As there's aggression in the mid lane, andinster goes in on Hurriwind, forces the beats. Final Judgment gets rushed from Baskin, does not find the shot, but Taiko Drums is just barely out of range. He's going to turn towards andinster, but Homie's continuing to chase Baskin with the Mystic Rush. Aegis keeps him alive for the second. Last breath to control, but Geb's shield is there for the cleanse, but evade and punish just too good, and Homiefe gets punished in the mid lane.
That was some insane feel from Andy, making sure to keep Baskin alive on literally 1 HP. Jig's going to be forced out of the Cataclysm. BaRRaCCuDDa dropping his own purification feed just to airstrike for the kill.
Too strong. Now Snoopy is rotating over along with Hurriwind to try and catch him out, but he will not be punished. BaRRaCCuDDa on the Jingwei going to be able to jump out of here, no problem. Fino can't find the target either, and CLG are reeling after a strong play from Space Station in mid.
Whew. Andy still trying to find that taunt onto fineokay. He's only got the Mystical Mail, so he isn't as tanky as you would imagine, but as a level 15 solo lane Thor, he can still deal plenty of damage.
This is a good call though from Space Station. They've grabbed the Pyromancer now for themselves and the Gold Fury. Despite CLG grouping for picks, the objectives have all gone the way of Space Station so far.
And that's a huge problem for CLG. They need to start finding some of these objectives and not just letting every single one of them go in favor of Space Station. I know it's only been 2 so far, but those 2 are going to end up biting CLG in the butt later on. We keep mentioning racing against the clock because you just can't stay even with a healer comp. No. They're just going to group and siege everything.
Now, Taco, my question for... Could they have killed Andy there in the mid lane? Because Taiko Drums was out of range for trying to catch up with Baskin, and so he switches targets, Hurriwind does, onto Andy, but Homie continues the chase onto Baskin underneath the tier 1.
It's too uncertain whether or not you'd actually be able to catch up to the Serqet between Ambush and the Deathbane. So going for Baskin is typically the safer play. Going for Baskin while andinster is full health underneath the tower with you, completely different story.
And in that case, andinster plays it perfectly to peel as BaRRaCCuDDa takes about half his health in dual lane. Didn't have beads, but holds on to the Aegis, so he'll be okay. But just perfect play, the last breath. And then Jigz was perfect too. He rotates in with the cleanse so that Homiefe can keep chasing, but then the Cobra's Kiss is there too. It's just too much from this Serqet in the jungle. That's why sometimes she plays support. She can control a fight to a certain extent.
Yeah, Homie is probably not happy with himself for overcommitting in that way. I think that he definitely was expecting a kill to happen. Speaking of which, Jigz forced into the Cataclysm, but no one's there to eat it.
Final Judgment is the follow-up, evade and punish there too. JeffHindla goes underneath the tier 1 tower so Baskin can find the shot, but they commit a little too hard, and now could be trouble for Baskin, and it is. He falls down. fineokay is the one that gets that hit. JeffHindla now able to escape. Wall not quite good enough to trap in. andinster and CLG make a 1-for-1 happen.
But BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla should be able to heal up enough with BaRRaCCuDDa grabbing these oracles, especially. CLG might not be as tempted to go for the Gold Fury here, as Homiefe is looking for BaRRaCCuDDa.
Aegis to avoid the Mystic Rush damage. BaRRaCCuDDa, though, does not have the airstrike, and Homie able to trap him down. fineokay walls off the reinforcements, and CLG make it a 2-for-1 overall, and that's what they needed to come over towards the Gold Fury confidently. Still here, though, is JeffHindla, along with Aquarius and andinster. They won't give this up for free.
Back off could force CLG away from the objective, though. It's enough damage, I think, that it can pose a threat, which is why we see CLG trying to take their time with this one. But Hurriwind has no purification beads, and Andy's looking for him on the back end.
He's going on the backside. Geb's shield is enough to force andinster away, but Gold Fury had to be leashed. JeffHindla gets rooted, but it's not enough. And Baskin's on his way. He has Final Judgment, but will it be in time? Gold Fury goes to CLG, but Spacestation wants to see if they can find the fight. Hurriwind has to Thunder Crash away, even Tycho drums to make sure he's safe.
Bit surprised that Andy doesn't keep going for it. Instead, they're all eyes onto Homiefe. Is Andy going to end up grabbing Jigz back into the mix? Cataclysm coming forward, and just in time, Aquarius saving the life of andinster yet again.
Wow, that turnaround was huge. I thought andinster was done for, but Aquarius just barely helps him sustain back up after they don't have enough damage to get it all done. But CLG force the fight on the Gold Fury. They are able to grab it, and they get it a 2-for-1 before the Gold Fury actually got taken down too. So that's just a win CLG really needed.
CLG, they've got the Pesty, they have the Brawlers, Divine Ruin finally online for Hurriwind. This is now the time where they can afford to try and actually fight back into Space Station's composition. Now that they have a sufficient amount of lifesteal to really keep this healing suppressed. It won't be easy still, though.
No, it's not an easy task into the Guan and the Aphrodite. And they've done a good job of so far responding when a Space Station are the ones who are the aggressors. andinster kind of goes in on Jigz in the mid lane, and that gank works, but Jigz lives just long enough to where they have to step a couple steps into the tier 1 tower. The rest of CLG are there so they can make their collapse, Taco, and so that was what kind of set up for them to at least make it 1-for-1. And earlier, BaRRaCCuDDa had his airstrike forced out, I believe, and that helped them set up the kill on him from home.
It's an overtime kind of build-up. Being able to force out the little abilities from BaRRaCCuDDa to then try and find them later on. Speaking of which, fineokay, no one's expecting this one from so deep.
He lands on both of them, forced to use the beads. Baskin is able to jump away. JeffHindla going to be all right too, but that's okay. But fineokay is like, hey, we got the beads off Baskin. That's a win by itself.
fineokay is quickly becoming super problematic for Space Station. He's level 19, the most farmed individual on the map right now even. 1-0-4, been a part of every single kill that CLG has profited off of, and even rushing that cursed Ankh for the upgrade. So it's clear that they want to fight.
andinster rides along on the horse, so takes a couple tier 1 tower shots. Snoopy is forced to retreat. Had to use the purification beads of his own to get away from that. But as you mentioned, fineokay been doing such an excellent job here in this game. And the fact that he's ahead, the fact that he's itemized like this to try and make problems for Aquarius and JeffHindla, that's going to be such a big boon for them, but they've kind of got a window now where they need to act on it.
I almost wish that andinster would have held his last breath instead of dropping it onto Snoopy, because he's already in the mounted archery. He's probably going to be able to create enough space between himself and BaRRaCCuDDa, because you know Andy's going to be along with the ride for him. So he only has to worry about the Serqet. If he can make it towards his T2 with enough health, there's no way that Andy's going to be prompted to want to stick around since he doesn't have the backup support of BaRRa.
And in that case, there really wasn't much kill potential. And andinster kind of goes on that one, catches him in the eye jutsu, but he still is able to kind of bounce back in from the knockup. So in the end, Snoopy's kind of okay. And BaRRaCCuDDa, level 18 in his own right, still doing a good job experience-wise over Snoopy.
He's had all of the buff control in duo lane, and that was CLG's plan from the start, I think. Normally, I mean, we were saying Space Station wanted to leave BaRRa alone, but it was more so CLG choosing to leave Snoopy alone. They kind of just accepted the fact that they were going to be forfeiting their dual lane buffs because it meant profiting elsewhere on the map.
That's right. That was sort of the price they paid for the repeated buff invades onto Aquarius, who is level 17. He is behind fineokay, but he's not really behind relative to everyone else. fineokay is just farming absurdly well at this point, so Aquarius is still going to be relevant for the squad. That's just kind of the price they paid. BaRRaCCuDDa is a little bit ahead of Snoopy. Aquarius a little bit behind fineokay.
We still haven't seen a true 5-on-5 team fight, though, from either side, and I'm more so curious about what a real Gold Fury dance is going to look like between these two teams, because Aquarius has been struggling a little bit here. It is Aphrodite into the Thor matchup, and I think that because of all the pressure Homiefe was providing early on, it kind of made Space Station take note of the solo lane, as opposed to just abandoning that and letting Aquarius do his own thing. I don't think that Andy was able to camp mid in the way that he was kind of hoping to on the Serqet.
And that's an interesting point. You talk about that 5-on-5 we haven't had yet as Snoopy gets pushed back. I mean, how do you like the poke war between these two when they're on the objective? Because Baskin is really strong from long range, and any poke CLG does, Spacestation should ideally be able to heal up, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that CLG probably have to kill Baskin first before everything else, because if they do fail to kill Baskin, then his final judgment should be able to steal every single one of the objectives that CLG tries to go for.
And that's how it's been for CLG. I feel like it's been all in from them, right? Like when they dunk in on Baskin, they kind of blow him up right at once. It's not as if they're having these prolonged fights where they slowly whittle them down, as Baskin is able to dash away with the evade and punish right back towards Aquarius, who's happy to heal him up. Now BaRRaCCuDDa's the one who's forced to jump away. Homie comes in with the root, but BaRRaCCuDDa's right there to use the airstrike, holds on to both relics.
A lot of strong poke, though, coming forward from those guys, and BaRRa even backing now, afraid that Homiefe would be looking for more, which he in fact was looking for more.
But he has that rapid reincarnation. He'll be back much faster than other hunters, but CLG are ready to start up the Gold Fury already, Taco. Final Judgment is being charged, but Jigz blinks in with the Cataclysm. Up into the air goes fineokay, and he dunks down on the backside. JeffHindla immediately responds with his own cavalry charges. Now it's Homie with the Mystic Rush, and his target's Baskin, and he takes him down.
Homie will succeed in taking out Baskin, but it's going to end up costing his own life. Andinster going to end up finding baseball in the mix as well, and now fineokay still trying to push everybody back from Space Station.
But this is exactly what I was talking about. When the all-in works from CLG, I feel like the fight's going to go so much better for them. They can't afford to stand near the Gold Fury, pull it over and over again, and trade attacks. They have to force an all-in fight from Space Station, and they win that one 2-for-1.
Space Station's still healthy enough, though, to want to pull this objective 3v4.
Yeah, this is surprising, Taco, that they're going to pull this. And they do end up dropping it. fineokay has to back. Hurriwind's still here. They don't have Homie anymore after he all-inned on top of Baskin and just kind of ruined his day. And neither team actually going to grab the Gold Fury. CLG have to back off as well.
Here's the problem, though, is that I think CLG just got a little bit lucky there in confirming the kill onto andinster, just because it was such a clumping of everybody in such a tight space. But as the game progresses and these fights start to get more and more spread out and sporadic, I think that CLG are possibly going to start struggling, because this sustain, even with all of the anti-heal CLG already have, 3 members didn't even look like they'd been touched.
And at this point, they were still able to, even though it was the 5-on-5, they were still able to isolate Baskin and isolate BaRRaCCuDDa, right? Early on in that fight, BaRRaCCuDDa has the airstrike forced on before it even starts, really, and then they go for the Gold Fury. Then Homiefe is able to dive all the way to the back where Baskin's basically alone. That's still not the fight Space Station want to have. They really haven't had that fight yet, their dream kind of fight.
I don't think that Space Station are going to have the leisure of being able to pick out a dream fighting circumstance, though. It's probably just going to end up CLG being punished over Space Station having a great initiation, because this isn't a team comp that you initiate with. It's a team comp that you counter initiate.
Right. It's not so much about their initiation. It's Jigz who's done a good job initiating. He's doing it here again onto Aquarius with the shockwave. Gets the knock-up, but he's getting a bunch of damage in return from Baskin over the wall, while Homiefe tracks down andinster yet again. CLG start off with a pick. fineokay's up in the air. Can't find the target when he lands, thanks to the Undying Love, and Hurriwind comes crashing in to provide more damage.
This is a lot of damage, though, being applied onto Homiefe. BaRRaCCuDDa finds a nice knock-up onto Jigz and fineokay, and he's still pushing forward for more. Won't be able to cut up top that rock. So now all eyes onto Snoopy. He doesn't stand a chance, and what seemed like a really unfortunate team fight for Space Station has now completely turned in their favor.
And now comes the difference in the compositions. They both got a pick, but Space Station are the ones who are full HP because they have Guan and they have Aphrodite. CLG was able to get a great pick on andinster, but that just was not enough. Space Station now regroup, claim the Gold Fury for themselves.
Andy thought he was being slick, I think, and was completely spotted out. And all eyes, I do think that Space Station are probably kicking themselves, though, because Andy's death was probably unnecessary. They were dropping a lot of their abilities onto Jigz, and it's a level 15 get. Good luck.
They did commit a lot on a Jigz to start that fight off. And that's what I was talking about. It's not so much about Space Station needing to be the one initiating, but they kind of want everyone closer together than what we saw in the first Gold Fury pull for when Jigz is the one that comes in to initiate, as they do land the stun. They're putting in a bunch of damage onto him yet again, but there's no backup for him. Doesn't even get Cataclysm off. BaRRaCCuDDa finds the last shot, and Space Station 5 members strong are near the fire giant.
fineokay with these walls, though, on the Thor. They have been so accurate and great at helping members of CLG get out alive. Jigz However, this time around, dropping everything on the get works out because there's no one around from CLG to try and help him get out of there. fineokay up in the air, though.
Wow.
Spacestation, no, they perfectly leashed the fire.
That was so patient from Spacestation. And fineokay, that's it. The ultimate's gone, and Spacestation can just pull it again now. And CLG have a much weaker initiation without Jigz and without fineokay's ultimate.
They've got to try and out-confirm Baskin. Hurriwind, however, already being poked out to 10 HP, and andinster's last breath going to be enough. Poison will not spread. But that doesn't even matter. He was their primary source of contest against this Fire Giant after fineokay's ultimate had been used.
That's right. Hurriwind is down now, and still Spacestation are 5 members strong. Andy jumps over the wall towards fineokay. Fire Giant's low, but they've leashed it for now, and Snoopy's the target. Final Judgment's not enough, but JeffHindla is enough. Snoopy falls yet again. This is the kind of fight Spacestation wanted. This long, prolonged fight over the objective, and CLG can't compete.
fineokay still not done just yet, though, but Andy's going to make sure that he stays away, ambushing straight on top of him. Pushes fineokay back to his own T1 tower and solo, and Fire Giant intact. Didn't cost them anything to get it.
That was disgusting, really. How long Spacestation were able to stay on that Fire Giant, how healthy they all were all the way through that whole process. I mean, at this point, it's going to be a very tall task for CLG to win the fight. We got to see more of what we saw from that very first Gold Fury, were able to successfully get those big all-ins.
Look at that healing already, though.
Gross.
Every single member from Spacestation just benefiting so much off of the sustain by Aquarius and JeffHindla. Aquarius also, if he wants to, I wouldn't be surprised to see him just stay permalink to Baskin during some of these sieges.
Right. At this point, Aquarius is healed enough to make fineokay's damage irrelevant, basically. I mean, it's so much that he's done for this team, and then you tack on JeffHindla with another 3,500 or so of his own to add to the pot.
I actually want to see fineokay sell. Well, looks like he sold the Warrior's Blessing, but is headed in a different direction than I was expecting. I would love to have seen him pick up another Brawlers. I think that it would have been okay to pick it up here.
Just to try and get something to limit this healing. As fineokay is waiting for his opportunity. He did not find it. He goes right back down. This has been an adjustment around fineokay's ultimate. When it's not a surprise gank from the side lane, Spacestation could just play around the Anvil of Dawn very well.
Look at Jigz, though, blinking right in, avoiding the stun out of Baskin, but Baskin's taking no damage whatsoever thanks to that Aphrodite ultimate. He's full health.
Now JeffHindla lands the two-man stun. Jigz already has fallen in this fight. Tycho Drums is on cooldown from Hurriwind, and Baskin cannot find the shot. Snoopy used Aegis anyway, and Spacestation regroup, start pushing into the Phoenix. fineokay is here, but now he's the target. Knocked up and deleted. BaRRaCCuDDa takes fineokay out of the equation. Phoenix down to half health, and CLG only 3 members strong.
There's still 3 towers left on the map, by the way, but I don't think Spacestation even care about any of them. Snoopy's going to mount an archery back into his fountain, and everybody else from Spacestation is just collapsing on top of this Titan.
Wow, this healer competition, it felt like it was eventually inevitable. CLG put up a good effort, but it wasn't enough. Spacestation continue to look the top card in North America as they take down CLG.
What do you even expect to do there? Like, I feel so bad for CLG.
That's
because
rough.
They honestly didn't really misplay, unless you count the picks and bans as a misplay, but that is just disgusting, watching healers completely control every single aspect of this game once the laning phases broke apart.
But I mean, could they have sat on Aquarius anymore? They took the blue buffs as often as possible. They 4-man rotated over there. They killed Baskin and Andy too. It just was not enough, Taco. And now we got to turn to you, Mixer Chat. Who was your MVP there? Please vote for us in the polls.
I don't feel like there was any one particular individual that really stuck out. I feel like whenever we see these double healer comps coming with the Guan Yu and the Aphrodites, it's always got to be the collective team effort. So good luck with that one, chat.
Not going to be an easy choice for you all to pick someone out of that Spacestation comp that in particular made it happen because they all worked so well as a unit. But we'll go ahead and get it over to the desk and let them break it down.
Thanks a lot, Finch. Thanks a lot, Taco. Fantastic stuff coming out from SPaceStation And I guess my question is, which is the real side of the squad? Is CLG the good team that people were asking for, or are they just floundering?
They're definitely a great team against SPaceStation that's so formidable. And the way SPaceStation piloted this game, left, middle, and right side of it, they were just trying to figure out a way to deal with the Aphrodite. CLG, they managed to group up in the early stages. They found an early kill onto her in a 3v1 scenario and allowed fineokay like a little bit of a leeway to be able to out-rotate her and make a lot of plays happen with that global pressure. It just unfortunately wasn't enough because of some of the positioning that happened in the mid game. It was a 1-for-1 around that 25-minute mark where it was andinster trading his life for Snoopy, which resulted in a Gold Fury because of all the sustain from not only Aquarius's Aphrodite, but also JeffHindla's Guan. It allowed them to transition to the Fire Giant where they isolated Jigz, and that's where the Fire Giant dance scuffle happened, and the sustain cup of Guan and Aphrodite just favored SSG in the end.
Aphrodite having a giant impact here, being used as the traditional healer. Because of it, Aquarius, the pilot, will wind up our most valuable player. I like this new picture of Aquarius. I think it reflects his new style, his new swagger. He's a really big part of this Spacestation Gaming squad.
It's difficult to really do much once you get to that late game. If you don't shut down the Aphrodite even harder, then she will do Aphrodite things at that point. So Aquarius piloting it well. And credit to SSG as well as being able to find those targets. andinster sacrificed his life on several occasions, making sure that his team would get that lead in certain team fights.
Really nice stuff there coming out from the guys on Spacestation Gaming. Counterlogic Gaming on the other side. How do you fix it?
Honestly, the Thor pick was nice and spicy, but it didn't really make a presence towards translating into the Gold Fury, simply because against a Thoth, Final Judgments, it's so difficult to really do Gold Fury when Baskin's alive. He has that ultimate, so they couldn't really get an advantage, even with the kill onto Aquarius, even despite taking away some of his blue buffs. They needed to find a way to maybe shut down BaRRaCCuDDa playing the Jing way, but he's BaRRaCCuDDa playing the Jing way. He's super safe as well. They didn't have any loopholes to exploit.
So you didn't like the Thor solo?
The Thor solo, not traditionally, no. I like it more in rank than in the SPL environment. Against such an experienced team as SSG, it's not going to work at the end of the day.
Well, we'll